Sports Night analyst Richard Oliver joining us now. And Richard, usually we'd only be roughly halfway through the MLB draft on Friday, but because the draft this year was reduced from 40 rounds to just 5, we're all done. It was an unprecedented draft for the MLB, similar to the NFL virtual draft earlier, but between the virtual selections, between the reduction of the rounds, what was your biggest takeaway from this year's draft?
I think the draft was kind of a microcosm of what we're going through in sports right now. It's very interesting. Everything seems scaled down, and everything seems like we've retreated from the circus atmosphere that's gone into anything. But the Major League Baseball draft is interesting because I didn't really pay attention to it much before. I mean, you and I have talked time and again about the idea that the Astros and Rangers and some of the players, Bryce Harpers of the world, who have come through the draft and done some really significant things. But overall, it's not something that I'd really paid that close attention to. I say that this year, everything seems heightened. I kind of paid attention to it, even in retrospect, watched the highlights, kind of watched how it unfolded. We're down almost like a retreat back to the old days in a way. It's a little more Spartan. When Torkelson got picked with the first pick, Torque, what a great name, Spencer Torkelson, or whatever it was. Those are the kind of things. And then we had Asa Lacy taken at number 4, one of our kids from this area. But then it really got down to, this team took him. This is why. This is how it folds into this role for this organization. I like that. I like the idea that as a pure sports fan, the draft became a pure sports draft. It just wasn't. There wasn't a whole lot of histrionics around it. Again, Major League Baseball didn't really have a whole lot of that, but that was the one thing that I took away from it. Very interesting.
Just reducing from the 6th round to the 10th round, taking those rounds away, the MLB saved roughly $29 million. So it's all about how much money can we save at this point, which again relates to the negotiations between the MLB Players Association and the MLB and the owners. Right now, the latest offer from the Players Union is a proposal for 89 games, full prorated share of salary, and expanded playoffs. As we wait this back and forth game between these two parties, it feels like we're almost getting further from a solution. How much longer is it going to take for these two sides to come together?
It's interesting you bring that up, Jill, because, when you look at the baseball in particular, we see what's happening with the NBA where there's movement. The only discussion about the season going on is that some players don't want to be a part of that kind of dynamic, but we know there's going to be a season. The NFL, college football, we know there's going to be football. That's already been decided. Major League Baseball has been so tone deaf. I mean, I don't understand, when you look at the discussion that even in the middle of a pandemic, even in the middle of all the different things happening in our world right now that kind of takes away from what goes on the field, they're arguing about money. They're arguing about the big picture financially, and not the idea that, let's get back on the field and play some baseball, and then we worry about this kind of stuff later. The players the owners are making the players look bad. To your point, as these different offers go back and forth, there's a lot of ping pong going on against the backdrop of a labor dispute that most people feel like is on the horizon for 2021 and the next contract, the next labor contract that's coming up. It's just a bad look right now when you think about Major League Baseball, and they're arguing over obviously millions of dollars, and everybody feels like they're not being cared for and all these kind of different things. But in all that's happening in the world of sports, I don't know about you, Jill, I'm not surprised that it's Major League Baseball that's standing there pouting and worrying about some of the things that other sports are not worried about.
I love your analogy. It's like a ping pong game. Two sides keep going back and forth, but nothing seems to get done. Even inches closer, seems like they're still further away from a final solution. How likely is the possibility that there is no baseball in 2020?
Now, Rob Manfred, the commissioner of baseball, said this week 100% certain there'll be baseball this year. Now, I don't know what that means. We know that minor league baseball is going away. We know that there's some different aspects of the game that might be played. Maybe he was talking about college baseball. I don't know, but I think that there is obviously going to be a great chance that they'll have baseball this year. They'll figure it out in some way. Major League Baseball has to figure it out. You remember back in the 90s when, of course, they had the strike and all the kind of different things. It took years for baseball to come back to the level it was before. And now, and then a lot of that was the steroid era with the, a lot of headlines about long moonshot home runs. Now this is different. We have an economic calamity happening. We have the economy of this country is not at the level it was in the mid 1990s. You can't walk away as a sport from the sports fans who have just already been, introduced to life without sports, and say, you know what, NBA's coming back, NFL's going to come back, all these things are happening, but here's Major League Baseball. We don't need you fans. We're gonna argue and go through all these kind of different things and not happen. I feel like there'll be baseball because they've got to do it. They cannot walk away. It'll take forever to get the baseball fans back into the stands.
According to ESPN, if the sides are unable to get a deal done between the league and the players union, the league, MLB, does have the power and the ability to implement a schedule of its desired length. So basically the players are at a disadvantage because the MLB will have the final say. But to your point, something has to happen. Baseball will be played. Manfred said it. We're going to hold him to his word. Baseball will be played.
We'll have baseball one way or the other.
Yeah, sooner, hopefully, rather than later. Richard, thank you so much.
My pleasure.